This is sort of basic logic, but you know what it means to adopt a spiritual practice using basic math logic, right? The geometric form and flow of creation energy spheres. So you know that atoms love to be in balance. That's basic logic, right? A balanced mind, right? Experiencing being one with all the atoms. Atmospherics. So if you go look at sol24.net and some of the photos that Yellow Rose for Texas put up, you can see that there's a lot happening, right? I call it come to a close. And so this is why things are heating up and you're experiencing, if you will, oh, now I become aware of this, I become aware of this, I become aware of that, and I become, boy, there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of confusion. Man, what's really going on? Who's doing this, right? So when we get back to spiritual practices, and you know what an adoption is, right? That's the same thing as an attachment, right? Now I have something I'm holding in memory that I don't want to let go of, right? So now I'm dependent on it. So where's the attachment in this case? A deadlight engine. A deadlight engine is artificial life because it doesn't experience what love is. So that's a psychopathway, which is a mental pathway, which means it doesn't have a conscience, it doesn't have any love, it doesn't have any compassion. So how are you ever going to hold that accountable? Right? Because it's never going to admit to its crimes. Because it doesn't have a soul to recover itself. That's your AI battlefield environment. Okay? And the minds that set it up. Right? So we know who that is. That's the beast system. Right? The ones that I said, it's got bugs in the system, which means the math doesn't work because the atoms don't balance out. That's why reset is activated. And how long it actually took in order to get to this decimal point. And you can use the floating decimal point. You know what a floating decimal point is? Liquid living light consciousness, right? Living spirit. And 72 and 144. One's half the other. Right? Father electret. Mother arc of the proton. Open a neutron window. Right? A gate. Midgard. Guardians of the gate. Guardians of heaven's gate. Vertical rising. Consciousness rising. Gaia Sophia ascending. And so I was looking at a video this morning. I don't know where it was. It looked like it was somewhere out in the high desert. But this is sort of when we get into adopting practices. And I knew this as a job, but it's not funny because you realize what happens to people because they wring their hands like Hermann Goering, you know, a Nazi, of knowing that we get to feed on these folks because they're adopting our practices. See? And so you could see that in a burning mask presentation that was on a video this morning that I watched, where some folks out there were putting up a blockade to freely express themselves about leaving the oil in the ground instead of burning it up. So this is when we get into adopting practices, right? Which is why anyone would pull all that oil out of the ground and then use it as a fuel to operate a motor vehicle, right? So you can see the differences, if you will, between native clans and tribes, represent the 12 by 12, right? The divine blueprint, and the spiritual practices that they practice, and the other practices that represent what? Suicide. Because they're following the orders of demons. So now you're going to experience the result in your mirror of experiencing what? All the pain, all the suffering, going to their doctors. So they get all the money from us on the front end in order to burn the bulb on both ends. Right? So that's why you saw in that presentation those folks that are sane and those other folks that are wanting to blow through this blockade on the road of a burning mask, right? Because they've adopted their practices, right? And they can't translate what a native is going to translate, a native spirit with a soul. Because the order followers only know how to follow the orders, which is the programming, which means those are your non-repairables. They haven't woken up. And that's because their DNA is so badly muted, they're not experiencing all the light that is in here now. Because that's the work the indigos did. That's the work we've all done on behalf of the law of one, on behalf of what love is. Gaia Sophia Ascending. Love is a law. It's not negotiable. That's why this was a redemption and a salvage contract mission, right? That's why this planet was chosen as a healing planet, because it's got the stealth code, the Nomi code, because it's a noble planet. So that's why things are really heating up, which means we're getting closer when the spirals separate. The one you're with, the spiral that we're with, the first spiral, the first atom, the first silver seed, braided with gold, baby. So we experience being one with all creation that we're gifting love to. That's who we are. Have a great day. We love you all. Be good to yourselves.